Hey guys, it's Jill and welcome back to my booktube channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing the Throne of Glass tandem read. So this is going to be an Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn reading vlog. And before I get any further into this video, there will be full spoilers of both of these books. So if you haven't read these books, then maybe this might not be the video for you. But I'm really excited to do this tandem read. I've been wanting to do it for a little while now, but I've been waiting to get the books. And now I finally have time to read. So I'm really looking forward to starting this venture. And the way that I'm going to do it, I'm just going to Google the tandem read. And I think it's just like the first link that I'm going to use, and I can also link it in the description bar below, but it basically just goes over which chapters and when to start and stop from each book, and I'll probably download it onto my iPad so I can check off as I go to keep track with that. So I'll go ahead and do that first, and then I'm going to get right into it, and I will give you guys an update when something interesting happens. Okay guys, I'm 10 chapters in, and as you can see, barely made a dent in the list. But for the first 10 chapters, I've mostly read Empire of Storms, and in this I'm on page 95, whereas Tower of Dawn, I've only read a few chapters. I've literally only read one chapter from this one, so I'm on page 10. But during this next block, I'm going to read chapter 2 and 3, so getting a little bit more into this one. But at the same time of reading, I've been making a flowchart for both books. I have like one page for each, just so I have a visual representation of what's going on and the order of events and whatnot. So there's literally so much that has been going on though for these first few chapters. And there are so many characters too, which I did find in previous books it was a little bit hard to kind of keep track of all the different characters, but now that I'm writing them down, I feel like it will be much easier. Overall, I am really enjoying it so far, and it's super interesting. It's been interesting from the first chapter, which started it off with Princess Elena, and she wants to kill the Valg King, and that guy's name is Erewhon. And she says she must do something that is going to be unforgivable, and to me it kind of indicated that she was going to be maybe instigating this war, but she was doing it for the overall good of Irelia, so she has to do it. So I'm really curious what exactly she's doing behind the scenes, because since that first chapter we haven't had her POV. So then there is Elide, and she was part of the coven, I believe, and currently she is in the woods by herself though, and there was only one chapter of that, so not much going on with her. But then we have Lorcan, and he thinks that he has this precious word key, but jokes on him because that is actually fake, and he also has a fake amulet as well, but he doesn't know this, so he's wanting to find the 2 other word keys so that he can get power. And then Aelin, Adian, Rowan, Lysandra, Evangeline, Fleetfoot, okay, that's it. They are meeting with these 3 lords, and this meeting does not go very well for Aelin, because basically they say that Aelin isn't fit to be queen, and that she doesn't automatically get to be queen just because she was a descendant of the previous royals, I guess. And she's obviously pissed about that because she wants to be queen, but unfortunately she has to prove herself, and these 3 lords ask her to find some allies for this upcoming war. I feel like it's kind of in the air that there is a war approaching, so everyone's kind of freaking out. So they want her to go to the south and gather people, and I feel like this is kind of a test for her to see if she's worthy. The plan to get these allies though starts with Rowan, and he is supposed to go to Rithold first to get Prince Dorian, and then they're going to go to the south to convince the people there to help them out with this war and ally together. So then somewhere else we have Manon, Asterin, Vernon, Erewhon, who is the Valg King, and Vernon is also a Valg. Asterin and Manon are witches to my knowledge. So here we have Erewhon sending Manon and the Coven, the witches, to Rithold to overthrow it and get the prince, which is Dorian. And then we go to Dorian's POV, and apparently he's king now, which I didn't, did that happen in the last book? I can't remember. But he is attacked by the witches, and then as we know from the other situation happening, Rowan is also going to Rithold, so Rowan actually gets to Dorian in time and saves him from harm of the witches and the Valgs. So that is what's happening in Empire Storms. And then for Tower of Dawn, this is where Chowl, I can't ever remember if I'm saying his name right, and he is now hand of the king of Adarlan, but he's not happy about this because I think he thinks that Dorian's like evil now or something. Honestly, it's been one chapter into this one, so I haven't got a full read on like what he thinks and whatnot, but that is basically the update for now. I'm already finding it very interesting. I like how intricate the whole storyline is and just how the different characters and their stories are all connecting to one another. I'm going to get back at it and I'm going to read Tower of Dawn chapter 2 and 3. Hi guys, it's a few days later and I feel like I've gotten a good chunk of the way through both books, but they are complicated, so I'm glad that I made these little flowcharts on my iPad here. But for Empire of Storms, I'm on page 144. Then for Tower of Dawn, I'm on page 134. So it's pretty even at this point, and I'm honestly really enjoying the whole story. With Empire of Storms, not too much additional has been happening, but Lorcan and Elide, so Elide was the one by herself in the woods, and Lorcan is the one that thinks that he has a word key, but it's fake. He and Elide are kind of together now, traveling together, which is a little bit weird because I like Elide and she's a human, she's nice, and Lorcan, not so much. So hopefully that doesn't really last for too long. With Dorian though, Prince Dorian, or I guess King Dorian now, he's pretty traumatized ever since the situation that happened with Sorsha dying, and he's wanting Rowan to help him learn about magic and kind of help him figure out how to use his magic, which Rowan is open to doing, but he kind of explains to Dorian that he is more in tune with a different type of magic and not necessarily the type of magic that Dorian possesses. So we'll see if that really is helpful. And another piece of new information with Empire of Storms is that there's a character named Maeve, and I don't really know much about her other than she is immortal, and I feel like someone was talking about her not in a great way. So that is that for Empire of Storms. But for Tower of Dawn, there's been lots of going on. Chal, Nesrin in the south to get allies for the war, and they ask the Kagan, who are not interested in doing this and they don't really want to be fighting. I am a little bit confused though, because it kind of seems like Adarlan and Terrasen, so Adarlan is Dorian, Terrasen is Aelin's, like she would be queen of that area. It kind of seems like they're allies based off of what some people say, but then other times Aelin is saying how she like doesn't like Dorian, especially in her POV. He is more so the enemy. So I'm slightly confused with that, but I'll figure out how that whole dynamic is eventually, I'm sure. And then with Chal and Nesrin, it kind of seems like they're maybe having some romantic interests. So for Nesrin, it seems like her and Prince Sartok might have a thing. I don't know if I'm just not reading this correctly or like not catching the vibe correctly, but when they were talking, I was like, it kind of seems like they like each other, even though Chal and Nesrin are kind of like a thing too. I don't know, they're like kind of on and off, it seems, or not even on and off, but it's kind of more like relationship maybe of convenience rather than them actually having true feelings for each other. And then I thought that Chal, and then there's a new character, her name is Yrene Towers. She is a healer and she wants to go north to fight, and she is actually against Adarlan because they killed her mom, and she was friends with Prince Kashin, who is a Kagan. Am I getting that correct? I think so. So then Yrene is asked by her superior to help Chal because he is paralyzed, and she really doesn't want to because she knows his association with Adarlan, and she again hates Adarlan, and of course does not want to help someone who is associated, especially because he's hand of the king. She wants no part of that, but she is convinced to help anyway. And I was kind of thinking that they maybe had a connection there because now she is helping him with physio and healing him, and it seems like there's this dark magic that's kind of trapped in him maybe, which she will be able to fix. So I feel like they are kind of on the pathway to romance. I don't know. So where they're staying, there's siblings, and see, I wrote down Kashin, but I don't know if that is, oh yeah, okay, yeah, Kashin is, okay, these people are all siblings. Kashin, to my knowledge, Kashin, Sartok, Argan, Hasar, they're all siblings. Hasar is a girl and the rest are boys, to my knowledge. And then for the bad guys, we have Orcus, Mantix, and Erewhon, and these are the Valks. And I believe they're all kings, and they are the wielders of the word marks. So they also have a power where they can use others as hosts, basically possessing other people, and they can, I don't know, take advantage of these other people to do whatever they want. But that is the update for now. In terms of predictions, I personally don't see Yrene going by herself to be fighting in this war against Adarlan. I feel like she needs allies, and she doesn't really have that at this moment. So it seems like Chal might be able to kind of convince her that Adarlan isn't as bad as she thinks. But again, her mother got killed by Adarlan's soldiers, so her opinions might be pretty solid with that, so who knows. Dorian and Rowan. I think that from the things that I've seen on social media about Dorian, which I honestly haven't seen too much, I really tried to avoid spoilers about this series. I thought that Aelin ends up with Dorian, which was really surprising because when Rowan ended up coming into the picture in like the 4th book, was it? One of those books. I was shocked that Rowan and Aelin were kind of forming a relationship because I thought that Aelin and Dorian was going to be the main couple of this story. But it seems like Aelin and Rowan are pretty strong, so I don't know. It's hard to tell if she would jump ship with Rowan and go for Dorian, or what's going on. But again, Dorian doesn't really seem like he's in the mood or like open to a relationship because of what happened with Sorsha, because he kind of had a thing with her in the previous book. So I don't know, but that's all I have to update for now. And oh, I also got Kingdom of Ash. I went to Indigo the other day and got that one, so I'll be able to immediately start that one after finishing these 2 books, which is nice that I won't have to wait. But yeah, I'm excited to continue. And in terms of the tandem reading, going back and forth from the books, it really isn't as annoying as I thought it would be, and I've been having a lot of fun so far with this kind of challenge, I guess. Hi guys, it's been a few days since I've done an update, but I am now on page 338 of Tower of Dawn, and then for Empire of Storm, I'm on page 262. We'll start off with a lead and Lorcan. They are now fake dating, which is really weird, and now they're part of this kind of traveling circus act, which was super random. But we don't get much of them in general, so I haven't really read a chapter about them for a little bit. Erewhon ends up finding Aelin, Lysandra, Adian, and then I think there's one other. No, it's just those 3. He finds them and threatens to hurt Rowan and Dorian. And I don't even know if Erewhon knows where they are exactly, but then it's also discovered that Aelin needs to find a lock. I also figured out more about Maeve, and she is an old heir of Terrassin, Faye, and Aelin wants her dead. But then we're introduced to Gabriel and Fenris, and they're kind of her sidekicks, and they pretty much just do whatever she commands. But they're told by Maeve to kill Lorcan, and they don't know where Lorcan is. However, Rowan and Dorian may or may not know where Lorcan is. So Rowan and Dorian go to this pirate lord where they meet Fenris and Gabriel, and Aelin kind of has some history with this pirate lord, and they ended kind of on rocky terms. But Rowan proposes to Fenris and Gabriel that if they help Rowan kind of fight in this war, then Rowan will tell them where Lorcan is. I don't know if Rowan actually does know where Lorcan is, but he is saying he does for this deal, I guess. So Rowan and Dorian are with this pirate lord, and then randomly Aelin ends up showing up, which was pretty surprising to all of the characters, and the pirate lord is really not happy about this because, like I said, they didn't end on great terms in the past, and she is actually requesting that this pirate lord helps her in the war as well. So I don't know if it's going to be the situation where Aelin and then Dorian are trying to like get them on separate sides. Again, I said this before, but it's kind of unclear whether Aelin and Dorian are allies or not. Like some POVs and some characters, the way they talk about it, it seems like they are, but then in other POVs, it seems like they really aren't. So I'm not exactly too sure about that yet. Then with the witches, Asterin, which is Manon's second, she was going to be killed for something that Manon did, and instead of that happening, Manon ends up getting into a fight with her grandmother, which was so crazy. Honestly, I was reading that scene and I was like, what is happening? Like, this is so violent and like crazy. But anyway, she fights her grandma and then flees with her coven to escape and prevent Astrid from being killed essentially. But before leaving, she does get some information from her grandma, and her grandma tells her that she's actually Kraken, is that what the word was? Yeah, Kraken, and not a Blackbeak, which kind of turns Manon's world upside down because she has thought her whole life that she is a Blackbeak. And then that whole scene ends off with them running into something called a Bloodhound, sorry. And that was a while ago though, so we haven't really had an update with that. But for Tower of Dawn, there's also a lot going on here. Oh, I also realized that I was pronouncing kale wrong. I randomly looked up a YouTube video because as I was reading, I was thinking to myself, am I pronouncing this right in my head? I feel like I'm not. And YouTube humbled me because I realized that it's pronounced kale, but I was kind of shocked too because I'm like, that is such interesting spelling for that name. From now, I'll be saying kale correctly, so I'm really sorry for butchering that in the past. But something really crappy happened with Kale, and this was Urine's fault. This was actually pretty annoying that she did this. Essentially what happened is Urine brought Kale thinking that this would show him in a positive light, but it kind of did the opposite, especially in his POV. He was just like very not happy with how this whole situation panned out. But she brings him to the city center to kind of show him off the fact that he is still building himself up to be stronger and whatnot because he has been paralyzed. But this kind of just ends up making a show of him, and he is just humiliated. He was super uncomfortable with it, and he does express to her though later that he did not appreciate that at all. So I'm definitely not obsessed with Urine, but I feel like she has grown from that. Their relationship is definitely getting stronger, and he's definitely realized that his relationship with Nesrin is not super strong, which kind of made me feel bad for Nesrin as well though, because she knows that she's essentially the second choice at this point. But it's okay because she has Prince Sartok, and so far he seems kind of, honestly, I'm getting a little bit suspicious vibes from him, but I can't put my finger on exactly why. I don't really trust him. But him and Nesrin seem to be hitting it off, and he invites her on this trek. It's going to last about 3 weeks, I believe, to just get more information about this whole situation, I think. And she actually just agreed to it and left with him without telling Kale. See, I was gonna say his name again. Without telling Kale. And he was not too happy about that. I think one of the most important things that was discovered by Urine though, because she went to a library to gather more information. I think it was to help Kale and his injuries, but she finds out that the 3 Valg kings, so Erewhon is one of them, but there's 2 others. And she talks to Kale and she's like, where are the other 2? And she mentions that Erewhon might be gathering these word keys to open the gates to the other realm, because there's people on the other realm that are waiting for him, which could be the other 2 Valg kings. And Kale's like, what the heck, that's probably correct, honestly. And he's very shocked because if all 3 Valg kings came into this realm, there would be a lot of chaos and a lot of bad things happening, because the Valgs can, I think I said this before, but they can pretty much possess others. And this is an issue, and this was another discovery that the old king, the one that was known to be very awful, he was actually possessed by a Valg, and they found this out when they were researching in the library. And then it's interesting too because Urine was afterwards attacked, or almost attacked, by a Valg. So I feel like they had a sense that she was figuring things out, and as a result wanted to attack her, but she didn't get attacked, like she's not killed or anything. But then I just got to part 2, and it's called Mountains and Seas. But that is all I have to say for now. And I really have been finding this tandem read so enjoyable. I think I might try in the future though, if I do a reread, to read one book and then the other in the just like regular reading order and see which one I like better. I've heard both sides that doing it in order is good, or other people saying the tandem read is better, but that's for a later date to worry about. And I'm going to first get through this tandem read. Okay guys, I have just finished part 1 of Empire of Storms. I'm now on page 373, and then for Tower of Dawn, I'm on page 412. And for a little while here, I've been reading a lot from this book, and looking at my chart here, I'm going from chapter 33 to 51 of this, so taking a little bit of a break with Tower of Dawn. And I have so much to say. There's so much that's been happening. Unfortunately, I did spoil myself, and I was looking up because I don't know why I thought that Maeve was in Morath. So when the whole thing with Morath was going on, I was thinking that it was Maeve, but I wasn't exactly sure. So then I looked up Maeve just on Google, Maeve Throne of Glass, and I found out that she is actually a Valg queen, which I didn't know before. I thought she was Fae before, because I guess she's been disguising herself as Fae. So yeah, I kind of spoiled that for myself. I haven't got to the part where it's revealed, but that was a little bit annoying that I did that to myself. But then also at the same time, it was good because I realized that she wasn't associated with Morath. I'll first talk about Tower of Dawn because really not too much has been happening. We have Nesrin and Sartak. I love them together. They are so cute. Sartak, he is just so sweet. He's so thoughtful. But him and Nesrin had a little run-in with a spider. And this is a special spider. It is called a Stygian spider, which there's also a few other names for it. But an old friend of Sartak really wanted him and Nesrin to find these spiders because they have been stealing eggs and hatchlings from the Rucks, I think is what they called them. So they go off to find this spider and are attacked by it, but they're saved by a shapeshifter who was a new character that no one knew that they were a shapeshifter, so that was kind of a surprise. Unfortunately though, it kind of ended off with Sartak being upset with Nesrin because he finds out about the whole word key situation, and he also for some reason knows that Nesrin knew all about that from the start. And yeah, he's kind of mad at her currently, but I hope that they're able to make up because I really love them together. And now time to talk about Empire of Storms, which so much more has been happening in this one. We find out that Elide, her uncle, is actually Vernon, who is a Valg, and he tried to use her. This is kind of disturbing, but he tried to use her as a way to see if Valgs and humans could be crossed and kind of what would happen if that was carried out. So she kind of like ran away. She was thrown in a dungeon. She definitely had a very hard life. And then going back to what I said before, Aelin was trying to convince the Pirate Lord to fight for her, which he was very reluctant at first. He doesn't like, it appears at least, that he doesn't like Aelin and that he was very against working with her, but he eventually does agree to help her fight. And there is an attack going on, so Morath is planning to attack Elwë, and this is because Erewhon knows the importance of Elwë and just how connected Aelin is to Elwë. And that was because her one friend that died, I believe, she was from there, right? It was like Princess, oh, I can't remember her name, but she was a princess and she died in one of the previous books. So as a result, Aelin vowed to protect that kingdom. So everyone's on their way to Elwë using the Pirate Lord's ships, and then suddenly Aelin, she kind of has this, not attack, but something happens where her magic kind of goes a little crazy, and there's something that's responsible for this kind of out of control magic that happened with her, and that is the word key that she has around her neck. There's a moment where she gets possessed, I believe, by Deanna, and this Deanna lady says that Aelin has to wield a lock. And although this is kind of useful information, everyone's freaked out and kind of upset with Aelin because all of this power that was released could have killed literally all of them. And during the scene, there's one POV which I thought was so cool. It's like from the POV of everyone watching from up top looking down below onto the water of Lysandra, who's a shapeshifter, and she is this water creature currently, and she has to fight off these I think it was a sea wyvern, and I honestly thought she was going to die. So when she didn't die, I was really shocked, but happy of course, because I really like Lysandra, and reading about her shape-shifting is just so interesting to me. I also had a little bit of an inkling that Adian was kind of into Lysandra, but I wasn't exactly sure if it was just a friendship vibe or what. But it was confirmed because he pretty much thought that she was going to die as well. She's lying on the beach and he professes his love. Then in the last few chapters, it's revealed that Princess Elena, which she was part of the very first chapter, talking about how she's going to be doing something bad, but it's for the good of the whole country, and what she did essentially was tell everyone that she destroyed Erewhon, but she did not, and pretty much left him to go attack all the other people. So everyone else is pretty upset with her. And she also took the lock that Aelin is supposed to be using and finding, but she tells Aelin, oh, I left the lock in this little swampy area, so you can go get it there, because when I tried to use it there was no power left, so maybe if you try to use it, it will work for you. But yeah, super annoying. But the last thing that happened before part 2 was that Manon finally came back into the picture, and she literally just came out of the sky. Some overall thoughts so far: I'm really impressed with how these books are able to keep my attention and interest. I will say though, Rowan and Aelin, I don't know what it is about their relationship. Like, they're cute, but it's just not really hitting for me. Honestly, I am really enjoying reading about Nesryn and Sartok. I would say even like a little bit better than Aelin and Rowan, and I don't really know why exactly, but that is how I've been feeling. I'm also a little bit disappointed with how little Dorian is in Empire of Storms. I really thought he was going to be quite a prominent character, but he is definitely pushed to the side, and he only talks like every once in a while. Like, I don't even know where he is at this point. It just feels a little sad because I did really like him in the previous books, but now he's kind of just not really important. Well, I guess he's the king of Adarlan, but still, he's just not really in this very much, and it's clear that his story has definitely gone to the back burner. But I do wonder if his storyline will pick up more in this book eventually, or if it will pick up in Kingdom of Ash. But those are all my thoughts for now, and I will give you guys another update once more things have been happening. Alright guys, I am now on page 494 of Empire of Storms, and then for Tower of Dawn I'm on page 445, and I'm pretty sure I left off with Manon kind of flying out of the air, or falling out of the air, and pretty much she is now with Dorian and Aelin, Rowan, the whole crew, and she asked Dorian to try to find the rest of her coven that she kind of lost when she fled that whole situation, and she promises Dorian if he does this and finds the rest of her crew, then she would help him to fight against Erewhon. And then randomly they're like together and kissing. That I did not expect at all. I kind of got the sense that there was some romantic feelings from Dorian's side, not really from Manon's side, but then he kissed her and I was like, well, literally what is going on? Like, that was so random to me. And really sadly, it's discovered that Eloy was actually set on fire, I'm assuming by Erewhon, but it's not discovered yet who did that. But there are some rumors floating around that Aelin actually did this, which really doesn't make sense if you know Aelin's intentions and just her connection to Eloy. But yeah, some people are assuming that this was her doing, which it completely was not. Then at the same time, Morath soldiers, so this is Erewhon's soldiers, they are looking for Elide, and as a result of that, they also find Lorcan. So they end up finding them in this traveling carnival, and Lorcan and Elide end up fleeing and are now off to Eloy to find Aelin. So Elide and Lorcan are traveling together, and randomly there is this instance where Vernon, which is Elide's uncle, finds her, plans to take her back to Morath to do the weird situation of trying to cross the valves with humans, but then Lorcan ends up killing him and saving Elide. So at this point they're kind of falling for each other, and it's a little bit of a weird match because Elide wants to help Aelin and help the good of the country and whatnot, but Lorcan is pretty selfish, and I personally feel like he is going to turn on Elide the second that he has the opportunity to. And even in his POV, you can tell that he kind of sees the relationship as like a short-sighted situation and nothing that would necessarily be long-term. And then that situation ends off with Ilkin soldiers finding them. And then going back to this book, the Coggin are not trusting of Aelin because they have been hearing the rumors that she started the fires in Eloy, so they really don't want any association with Aelin. Despite that though, Kale still tries to convince them otherwise and to convince them to fight in this war, but the Coggin has zero interest in this request. And then the only other thing that's really happened here is that Nesryn and Sartok have decided to stay for 3 extra weeks because they haven't really found out more information about the whole situation. But it seems like Nesryn's happy about this because she can now spend some more time with Sartok. Let me know though if I'm mistaken with any of the plot points. It is a little bit confusing. Even though I'm like writing down what's happening, it can still be slightly confusing to figure out exactly what's been going on. So I'll talk to you guys really soon. I finally made it to the last little check mark area of this challenge, and I'm on page 596 of Empire of Storms, and then page 545 of Tower of Dawn. We had Lorcan and Elide being chased by the Ilkin soldiers, and they were being led towards where Aelin and the whole crew were. So what ended up happening is that Aelin used her firepower to destroy all 500 of these soldiers. Lorcan's more so the prisoner, but Elide, because she was with Manon, and now Manon's kind of part of this group, they kind of reconnect. And then Elide also wanted to see Aelin because Elide's mom, she helped Aelin way back when to let her run away, and she actually sacrificed herself at that time as well, which of course Aelin is really grateful that Elide's mom did that for her. Apparently this lock though that they found in the marshy area is like a mirror little, I'm literally picturing like a mirror compact, so I'm not exactly sure, but it was discovered that this wasn't actually useful, and someone told them that it actually wasn't a lock. So at that point I was pretty confused about what was really going on. A little bit later we have Ansel, who is Queen of the Waste. She comes in with her kind of army to help out Aelin because Aelin saved her from death along, I think that was literally in the first book, which in the order I read it in was the novella book. She spared her life, so then now Ansel has like a life debt to owe Aelin, and then Aelin called in that debt. There is something weird going on with Rowan asking his cousins to do something, which was super vague, so I have no idea what that is about. And we also discovered that Maeve was actually the one that set fire to Eloy, which definitely tracks. Like, I knew it had something to do. I think I predicted it was going to be Erewhon that did that, so I guess I was wrong about that, but it totally makes sense that Maeve is the one that carried this kind of scheme out. Where I left off though was Aelin and Manon kind of transporting or teleporting themselves. They are now trapped inside the lock slash mirror, and we don't know what's happening with them, and the whole crew is really freaking out, and they're like, well, what the heck do we do now? And then at that time, of course, Maeve decides to attack the group with her Armanda. So it doesn't seem like the greatest situation for this group, and I feel like there's definitely going to be a death of, like, I feel like Lysandra might die, and I'm thinking Lorcan might die as well in attempts to protect Elide or something like that. But onto this one, I have not been a huge fan of Kale for these past few chapters. I just don't really like the trope I've found where the couple gets in a fight and then it ends with them like kissing and doing other things. I found it really unnecessary that Kale was comparing Yrene to Aelin, and pretty much he was saying how Aelin has done so many things to get revenge on the people that wronged her, yet Yrene has been sitting there pretty much doing nothing. And then right after that is like when they start to like be a couple and do coupley things, and I was like, that was so out of line, the things that he said. So I don't really like them together, honestly. A good thing though that has been happening is that he can now walk again, so that is good for him. But on to Sartok and Nesrin. They have run into another spider, and this time it seemed to me like they were in a cave, but he couldn't fit through the one area, and he's like, go Nesrin, just go. And she obviously doesn't want to go without him, but he ends up getting pulled one way, so then she runs the other way, but then they both end up getting caught. The spiders tell Nesrin though about Maeve and the whole situation, how Maeve is the Valg queen and how she wants all the keys to pretty much put all the Valg kings in the other realm so that she can lock them away there. But she's the one who stole the keys originally and wants to be the one to control the passageways from realm to realm. Nesrin and Sartok do end up getting saved by some of his friends though, and that is where I left off there. So I think I'm going to be able to finish these books in the next few hours. I really don't have too much of either of them left, so I'll talk to you guys with my final thoughts and summary after I finish. Okay guys, I am finally checking off the last of this tandem read. It feels so good to get these checks all done. Here we are, and I first finished off with Empire of Storms. It turned out that the mirror they found in the marshy area ended up being a pool of memories. So then when Aelin and Manon went into this pool of memories, they were able to see what actually happened, and they were able to discover more about the eye of Elena and how that actually was the lock the whole time. And it turns out that someone has to sacrifice themselves in order to get the lock to work again. So I said before how Maeve's Armanda attacks, and it turns out that Rowan, he asked his cousins to turn on Maeve and attack her Armanda instead of Aelin's, and that is exactly what they do. And I kind of forgot actually when I was reading that, the connection of Rowan with Maeve, and after talking to his cousins and explaining the whole story with Aelin and everything that's going on, he was able to convince them to turn on Maeve, which he wasn't even sure if they were going to do that because they never told him definitively whether or not they would do that. They were kind of just like, maybe we'll think about it. So it was definitely a surprise for everyone when it actually happened. And then I knew that Lorcan was a little snitch. Honestly, I had bad vibes about him, and he is the worst. And he ended up being the one that told Maeve where their location was. And then Maeve gives Aelin an ultimatum, pretty much saying that Aelin can surrender herself or she can surrender Elide. And of course Aelin doesn't want to surrender someone else, so then she agrees to go with Maeve, which Maeve thinks is in her benefit because Aelin supposedly has the word keys. But she wasn't really paying attention because Aelin ended up giving the word keys last minute to Manon. So they are now in Manon's possession, and Maeve does not have them even though she has Aelin in captivity. It seemed like Aelin knew that Maeve was going to take her away though, because she was so meticulous in planning everything out before she was taken away, like getting married to Rowan, so he is now technically king of Terrasen. And then she also called in a life debt from the, I can't remember what the name was, but she called in a life debt from someone in one of the very first books of the series, and they brought their whole army. So it appears now that this gang is fully prepared to fight in this war. And then with Tower of Dawn, it's interesting because we end off Empire of Storms thinking that Aelin is fully captivated by Maeve, and then someone mentions here that Aelin actually escapes a few hours later. So I was a little bit confused. I'm like, okay, so then does Maeve have her or not? And it seems like we won't figure out what exactly happens until the last book, Kingdom of Ash. And then after Valg demon attack on the Coggin princess, Kale and Yurine's lives end up being tethered because that is the cost that they have for helping the princess and saving her. After that ordeal, the Coggin finally agree to help fight in this war and fight against Erewhon and the other Valg in Morath. And in the last chapter, it seems like Aelin, she is visited in the iron cage by this old queen. So I don't know if this queen has something to do with helping her be released or get away from Maeve. And overall, I'm going to give both of these books 4 stars. I thought both of these books were really well paced. I was not bored at all when I was reading them. Even though there were a few plot points that I was able to guess, I still think both of these books were really great, and I would definitely recommend them. I enjoyed most of the romances and the relationship development between the characters. There was some good tension between some of the couples and just a little bit of spice, but nothing crazy. And there's also that found family aspect that is developing between the friends and characters in here, which I love reading about. And as much as I can rave about these books, there was just something that wasn't giving me that 5-star feeling. But I'm hopeful that in Kingdom of Ash it will be a 5-star read. So I'm really excited, and I'm hoping to start that very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This tandem read was definitely a little bit of a challenge. I will say by the end of it, I was kind of getting, not annoyed, but it was a little bit of a task to have to go back to my list and be like, oh, okay, so how many chapters do I have to read from this one now? And how many chapters do I have to read from the other one now? Like, I kept forgetting how many chapters from each one that I had to read. So then I kept having to refer to the list, which was slightly annoying, but really it wasn't that bad at all. If you've also done the tandem read, please let me know your thoughts in a comment down below. And don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more book content, and I will see you guys in a new video soon. Bye guys.